All right, folks, welcome to a very important series here in Group C in Titans League. We've got Overtaken after 2 rounds with just 2 wins. Kingstone after 2 rounds. He's got 4 wins. So we crunched the numbers, we did the math, we looked at the probabilities before this series. It's a bit of an interesting group, right? Because Slam is at the top, Tato's right behind him, but they played 4 rounds already. This is just round number 3 for Overtaken and Kingstone, so they've got some potential to really catch up at the group standings. But with the numbers, Overtaken really needs to win this series. If he wins 2-1, he ends up being at 4 wins. Kingstone is just right above him at 5. If he wins 3-0, then obviously, then Kingstone really starting to sweat a little bit. The good thing for Overtaken, and I would love for someone to check to remind me the situation with Kingstone. But the good thing for Overtaken is that the players that seems to be struggling the most in Stark, who hasn't won a game yet in his 3 rounds, that player is up next for Overtaken. So that could be 3 wins for him if that remains consistent. So the way this map works, you've got Fisher on the TC. This map is El Dorado. It's a classic. Right before this, I was saying that I haven't covered El Dorado in years, it feels like. So many of you guys might be seeing this for the first time, but it is a classic map, and we brought it in here for this season. And you got 3 Marlin deep fish, so that's 350 food times 3 underneath the TC, which means you could do ridiculous things with your feudal age uptimes. That's a lot of food. And then there's also water on the outside. There have been varying versions of this map over the years, but this version was my preferred version. I think having water on the outside makes it a lot more interesting and makes a lot more strategies viable. And the reason I think, it's important to have more viable strategies is because there is one very clear strategy if there's no water, and that is just tower rush the middle. What you'll notice is visible, guys. Look how annoying Kingstone's being with this eagle right now. But yeah, this is visible at all times to both players. There's stone and gold in the middle, and then there's only 2 tiles of gold near the town center and 2 tiles of stone available near the town center for both. So anyways, board gets brought in here for Kingstone. But Kingstone has won both of his sets 2-1. Beating Slam 2-1, and it wasn't Stark. I don't know who else he actually faced up against. Again, my apologies. But I think Kingstone, he's got the potential to go all the way to first place with a win here today. Gets another 2-1. And moves on. He's got 2 more rounds in the bank. Could be really good for him. And Slam is currently the king of the group. I think sitting at 8 wins. I think I might have said 9 earlier. I think it's 8. For future sets, guys, I apologize for people who watch the videos later. For future sets, I'm going to put the group of the series I'm casting on another monitor. That way I'm not guessing on certain things. But it's hard to know all the different rounds, who's played who. It's hard to remember that stuff. So thanks for bearing with me here. Now, if you run out of gold, guys, if you run out of gold in Castle Age, you are usually going to be relying on skirmishers and pikemen, right? Units that do not cost gold. And pikemen is not going to be very helpful against the Aztecs. And I feel like that the key here is going to be for the Aztecs to go into eagles and thus control a lot of that gold. So I could see man-at-arms being the play for our Aztec player, who does click up to feudal age here. Noticing Overtaken hasn't clicked up yet. If you're an Overtaken fan, and there are a few watching right now, actually a couple people from Estonia watching, which is pretty sick. I looked up the population of Estonia. It's 1.3 million. But anyways, he is Malay, so he's not going to be able to click up to the next stage. Or, sorry, he can click up to the next stage soon if he wishes to, but you advance faster to the next stage, so being slower for now looks a little bad. He should be completely fine. So much food income thus far. Let's look at res collected. The res collected is insane for this time of the game, and that's just because of all the fish underneath the TC. Plus, they save so many turkeys. Plus, there's deer. I think this map has more food than any other map, funnily enough. Yeah, probably. Any other map in this season. Maybe Coast to Mountain has more because of all the hunt. But in terms of how easy it is to get started, El Dorado is by far the fastest. Just because of the shorefish underneath the TC. Are they auto-scouting or doing it manually? Absolutely doing it manually. You can tell from Overtaken's vision. found his opponent, has done full circles, sees where the gold is. And then Kingston, he also found his opponent's base, did see where the gold is, and is backed away. So the most notable thing right now is that we have both players going for 2 docks. And we have fire galleys for Kingston. Overtaken did go for 6 fishing ships, so a bit of extra greed from him, you could say. But notice how much he has on wood right now. He's got tons on wood. And it would make sense here as he's walling and building up the barracks. Makes sense. He essentially wants to go navy and archers. And the reason that players do that a lot in combination with each other, the reason you don't frequently see scouts in navy is because for navy and for archers, you need wood and gold, right? So if it's wood and gold for both, you just send a lot onto wood, a lot onto gold, then you end up feeling strong there. That's our first kill of the game. Overtaken loses a lot of HP on his scout, but does kill the eagle from Kingston. And Kingston, like, kind of walling up at the moment. Guys, it takes a really long time to get ships over to the other side. A very long time. That could pay off something fierce, but I'm curious to see if Overtaken is going to keep his fires at home or if he's going to send his fires across the map right now. There's no scouting to know that Kingston is sending those fires across. It seems like he's just playing defensive for the time being, which I really like. There's no berries on this map, so players are always kind of in an awkward spot in terms of where to mill. As far as Overtaken knows, that is just the original dock from Kingston. He doesn't know about the secondary one. So he's actually going to send his fires here. We'll see if both players patrol. I prefer Overtaken's position right now. Yep, he is patrolled. Kingston did not, so Kingston will likely lose that ship. And then this scout from Overtaken, getting a lot of vision, saw the market, which should tell Overtaken that his opponent's just trying to rush up to Castlade, which is a bold strategy. It was only 2 fire galleys from Kingston. He used a lot of his extra wood for the market and for the blacksmith. And yeah, guys, he's just trying to go fast castle here. And then it will probably be barracks. And then probably be eagles. The scout went down for Overtaken. Overtaken's just got 2 archers. And he could try and run past this TC. But what an interesting strat from Kingston. I actually really like it. I was expecting eagles, right? I didn't think he'd be able to get to Castlade this fast. And this gives him a nice head start against the Malay, where you're always scared that the Malay are going to be faster than you. Overtaken will be right behind him. And Overtaken, yeah, wow, he has his buildings already, right? Yeah, he has his buildings. Overtaken's going to be, he is going to be faster than him. Whoa. And he sees the barracks, and based on his scouting and everything, this should tell him this is just the first barracks. Now, Overtaken, he has more navy, right? And he's going to find the fishing ship kills. And this is so beautiful for him. I wonder if Overtaken will consider adding a second barracks now. Because he knows his opponent will go eagles. Continuing with archers could be a little bit risky. But the food income, I know there's still turkeys here, right? But the food income is still going to be a big issue in the long run here for Kingston. Overtaken's going to overtake this fire, I think. Maybe. I mean, fishing ships are going to die regardless. 2 villagers repairing, not enough. All the fishing ships are going down. And there's villagers in the center now for Overtaken, taking some of this gold. Now, Kingston can see this. And those villagers are obviously going to be quite exposed. But the first thing Overtaken might do is drop a town center there in the middle. Beautiful play thus far from Overtaken. Just a really high-risk, high-reward strategy from Kingston. But you can't really hate it too much because it's a high-risk, high-reward map. This is extremely snowbally. There's that TC, by the way. God, Malay units, don't take this the wrong way. They just don't know how to stop talking. And it takes one to know one, okay? I'm the same way. But just listen. They speak like 16 words every time you click them. And oh, boy. Oh, man, I imagine Overtaken was probably looking at the water. And it looks like Kingston's going to be able to get a town center up here on the gold as well. So both players might end up being here on the gold. Let's see. Villagers are exposed, but Bodcanero isn't in. So the Eagles just kind of delaying. Overtaken realizing that the villagers are there, but not going for them just yet. Man, if he had Bodkin, he might have actually been able to snowball this. But he looked away for a moment. And now things get a little bit messy. Now, I actually prefer the TC position for Overtaken. Assuming this goes up, I think it will. I prefer it because it actually gives protection for the gold. So there's gold behind it. Whereas for Kingstone, units could disrupt his gold income if they just stood in this location. But wow. Okay, well, this is where all the action's going to be from here. We will see zero focus on water anymore from both players. I imagine Overtaken might patrol the ships every now and then, but... yeah, it's going to be crossbowmen, which now have Bodcanero, and then siege. And eagles can dive in at times to take out siege. Crossbowmen, not so good against the siege. I like what Kingstone's tried here. He's trying to find gaps in the walls, but Overtaken's done a good job to pay attention to that. It's really annoying, though, when the eagles don't go where you want them, right? If they were to just run in here, obviously he's expecting it. He's trying to use that mobility here. Just 9 crossbowmen for Overtaken. Just 4 eagles for Kingstone. But he's on 2 barracks. Slowly producing. Overtaken, like 2 years ago, was a bit of an all-in player. And over the past year or two, he's really learned how to play with a bit more balance, which is what all the top names do. He's thinking of a tower there. A move that I really like. But it's risky, and he might not be able to get it up. And Overtaken has to shift over to another area now for Golden Stone. That's a great attack round, though. And he has to be patient here. Oh, this is so tough, but he's slowly building the tower. It's at 40%. And then he makes a move over here, where Kingstone is repairing that mangonel. Also a good play. Great play from Overtaken. Starting to build the tower again. Pulls some of the villagers around. Loses one. Over here, micros needed from both. It's ridiculous how much is happening. And I basically could look at their point of view. Everyone's seeing this. And honestly, both players have done a tremendous job this far. But no one's really landed a killer blow just yet. Oh, that's a big moment. That's a big moment. It's 2 big shots for Kingstone, and it is officially starting to snowball against Overtaken right now. There's 4 mangonels. Remember, we said there's no answer to mangonels right now if you're Overtaken, except your own. A 1 versus 4, soon to be 1 versus 5, is horrible news for him. And the tower's not working. So it wasn't actually the Eagles. Obviously, the Eagles played a role. It's just been the siege. Now, you still have a TC here. I don't know what this villager's doing. She's dead now. You still have a TC here. And the TC's still protecting this area. Kingstone's economy's not pretty, as he's bringing more villagers. Look at his food eco. He's got no food eco. Honestly, he can't make villagers anymore. He's well behind in that as well. Big micro here from Overtaken. And many of these crossbowmen are weak. And the micro continues to be much better for Kingstone as he lands more shots on these crossbows. The TC could soon go down. This mangonel has been clicked forward. It could go down. Villagers are exposed everywhere. The snowball is officially working, and this might be the end of the game. Doesn't matter if you have a Vill lead. If you don't have gold control here, you can't stop this. And it's not like the villagers are really that efficient right now for Overtaken either. He's got 1 mango. He's going to have villagers exposed everywhere, and I just don't know how you stop this composition. Obviously, at this point, Kingstone could spend a little bit more time adding a few more farms if he feels he needs some food eco, and you do need a little bit of it to be able to make eagles. I'd say the chance for Overtaken to come back in this game comes down to 1 or 2 big shots. If he can get 1 or 2 big shots and then show up here with another TC, he's still fine. Because he's still got crossbowmen to kill the 2 eagles that Kingstone has. Remember, he's got fishing ships. It's not very efficient now, but he's got them. Ooh, that's nice. He does have stone here. He is completely out of gold, though. Kind of funny is Kingstone's been buying resources with such frequency that I feel like... Oh! Nice attack round. I feel like maybe this becomes a game where Kingstone buys food and then makes it easier for for Overtaken to sell food and get good prices for it. Oh, More crossbows doing damage there. Repairs needed. There's not much gold for the repairs, and the Eagles pay off. The tower will not go up. There's brutal stuff here. El Dorado's such a punishing map. It was ultimately Overtaken that decided this was going to be our first game because of the draft setup. The way the draft works, it's a lot of bans after the initial picks, and then whatever map is remaining is the map that is played for the first game. And Overtaken got to choose between banning Fractal or banning El Dorado, and he ended up banning Fractal, which has been played a bit more frequently here. I think Malay face up quite nicely on paper against the Aztecs, because they could go for Karambit Warriors against this type of composition. Oh, nice shot. But it's just looking so difficult for Overtaken to be able... Wow, beautiful gate. It's just looking like it's so difficult for him to be able to afford that. And the Eagle number is now higher than the crossbow number, so I think all the siege that Overtaken will send out will end up being picked off by Eagles. You can only repair for so long without gold. I think Kingston, about to get his 5th win out of potentially 7, I guess if you're doing the math. He won his first 2 sets, beating the player who's number 1 in the group right now, Slam, 2-1 in the first round. And I know he's still behind in eco in terms of eco count, but we're not seeing him lose anything right now. All of his villagers are working. His efficiency, if you look at the overall worker efficiency and worker efficiency last minute, it is way higher. And I think we must be close to the end of the first game, which is going to be such a blow to Overtaken, because again, he really needs a 2-1 result at the very least here in this series. That's what it's looking like. More big shots, more crossbowmen going down, 60 kills for Kingston, 39 deaths. Now, who do I predict will win this series? Well, I had said 2-1 for Kingston. He beat Slam 2-1, and then he beat somebody else 2-1 as well. Anyways, GG's called there. What an interesting game. Like, this was so fun. Honestly, let's say this was a El Dorado only tournament, and we were to see El Dorado more and more, and then eventually people would figure out how to deal with the Aztec play, because this was a really unique strategy from Kingston. It was so risky, right? It was so all in, but you could see why it worked. I wonder if the play for Overtaken instead of crossbowmen is longswords. This is what I think we'll see in Platinum, okay? For those that are going to follow Platinum, which will start in a couple weeks. I think we're going to see players with the fish advantage redock in like 2 or 3 different spots. So the food income's insane. And then in this type of position, they can use their initial barracks to research longswords and get a bit more of a buffer out there. But it's just so timing oriented, and it's so tricky, and he really didn't have that much food. Remember, you can't farm around your TC. You'd have to make a mill somewhere else. But I think maybe with the food income, he could have done a bit more. I preferred Overtaken's position at this stage, but it was simply the Mangonel micro. Like, he didn't have the Mangonel numbers. Kingston just never stopped producing Mangonels. Like, right now, it's 1 Mangonel for Overtaken. It's 2 for Kingston. You go a bit further ahead, 1 Mangonel for Overtaken, 3 for Kingston. A bit further ahead, 5 Mangonels versus 2. It's just full-on Mangonels. And so the big problem for Overtaken there was that, yeah, he's got 2 units. He's got crossbow and he's got Mangonels. But all of that is countered by Mangonels. All of it. And then the Eagles obviously were extremely disruptive to his eco. Really tricky. I think, in theory, on paper, you should want to go longswords there. And at least force the Aztec player into some type of a counter for that. Like, I don't know, monks. You collected more resources. You did all this stuff. But it was just a couple bad fights that didn't allow Overtaken to play in towards a castle drop instead of having to go towers and spend his resources in slightly different ways. Kingston goes up 1-0 here and is play all 3 in TTL. Overtaken needs to bounce back now. Okay, we have to change the colors here as we move on to game number 2. And we've got some good old-fashioned migration, folks. And I love this map. I think it's one of the best water maps in the game. The Islands meta got a little bit stale for me. Islands was in a lot of tournaments. I think people got island out. Or maybe I just got tired of people making neutral archery range jokes. But anyways, important series in TTL. Overtaken after losing the first game. Really needs to bounce back. This is his home map. And maybe he'll be able to do a better job in this game, because in the previous game, the Mexican player was playing as the Aztecs, which is like, that makes the Aztecs twice as strong. So that's basically cheating, I think. Here we've got Mexican player playing as the Italians. He won't be able to be quite as strong, surely, playing as the Italians. So Italian's one of the best civs for this map and one of the best civs for any water map. I think that there could be no complaints there. And there can also be no complaints over the Japanese. In fact, Overtaken's very first civilization pick for this series was the Japanese. So he seemed to prefer the Japanese over the Italians. Let me just explain how I think a competitive migration game will play out. And then I will explain the variations from there. I think that's the best way for me to break this down. So obviously you have to build up towards the next stage, right? But because the players are so far apart from each other, this is a map where you tend to see the best players who have the best strategy on this map, and I don't know if these guys fall into that category yet. This is where you tend to see them make a lot of fishing ships. If this was islands, and let's say this was just opened up, you would see a lot of Navy early on, because it's very easy to just cross over and kill the opponent's fishing ships. But because it takes so long for the Navy to get over there, players tend to go fast castle off of 2 docks here. And that's 2 docks, both producing fishing ships at one point. So I think the Japanese are the preferred for that type of style, because it is seen as a bit greedy. In the event that the opponent comes over with Navy, the fishing ships are much stronger. So you can kind of survive that weak period as you're trying to get to Castle Age, more than other civs can. The Italians, arguably better at fighting for those fast up times, because it's cheaper to go up to the next stage. But they still have cheaper fishing ships. I think, yeah, it's cheaper to go feudal, but guess what? It's also going to be cheaper to go castle. In castle, you get dock technologies. And why am I saying Ethiopian? Sorry, Italians have cheaper dock technologies too. So I feel like there's just really good flow and really good reasons for both players to simply go fast castle here. Now, off the fast castle, you then have the time to transport. And then you have to pick a spot for a town center, or maybe you go monastery. There's lots of options. Another strategy that players like to do off fast castle is some players will sneak villagers forward. That way they have a forward dock to be able to disrupt the opponent's fish. That can be really strong. I think Overtaken's that type of player. If I had to predict this whole game right now, I would say Overtaken goes fast castle. He doesn't go for the town center when he transports. He actually runs across and tries to forward dock. It'll be fun, though, because if Kingston is playing the timings correctly, I think he will probably be here with his scout and villagers and maybe could spot that and adapt to it. I just don't think it's worth taking the risk to kill Japanese fishing ships and get the forward dock, because they're Japanese. The Japanese are so freaking strong. So, yeah, that's kind of my explanation of how I think things will play out here. I do think the meta would be a little bit different on migration if there were boars. You might not see as many fishing ships, but I'm glad there's no boars. There shouldn't be boars on every map. Migration is perfect without it, in my opinion. A potential problem for Overtaken is that his woodlines on his starting island are all rangeable. So if this is galley play from the opponent, that could actually be really awkward. Whereas, like, this woodline's safer. This woodline's a little bit safer. All the woodlines are very much near the shoreline, but that's not really a big deal, in my opinion. Would Dravidians or Portuguese have been better on this map or worse than these two? I think Dravidians and Portuguese are both really good, but I think they are slightly worse. I think... Yeah, I think they're slightly worse. Like, Italians and Japanese would have already gained an advantage over the civilizations you mentioned. I think Portuguese and Dravidians, they take advantage of their bonuses a little bit later. Okay, so 10 fishing ships is what I've seen from a lot of players for the greedy fast castles. We see Overtaken clicking up earlier than Kingston, which is notable because it is cheaper for Kingston to click up. but just a villager faster. It's 3 docks for Kingston, only 7 fishing ships. Not sure I love that. I would like to see 10. I think 10's the way to go, but he's adding more now. The 3rd dock is definitely out of the ordinary. I think, essentially, the difference is Overtaken's going to invest into the 3rd dock after he makes his buildings. And after he made the fishing ships. Let me look. Resources collected. Overtaken more food. Probably because he has more fishing ships. It's important to remember a mill is needed if you're going blacksmith market, and I think Kingston might have forgotten it, guys. He still has the time for it, but one of the most annoying things for water maps for players who don't play water maps a lot. He's going 4 docks. Okay, yeah, this is not what I was expecting. And maybe it's some inexperience on his part, right? Like, this is Overtaken's home map for a reason. Yeah, even at the highest level, sometimes players just forget that mill. That sucks, because it takes time to build that mill, and then you need the market too, and that will definitely delay the uptime here. I like how Overtaken's boxed his houses up here. We've limited space on this island, so it makes sense. And as expected thus far from Overtaken, I think he's just missing a little bit of food, but that's no problem for him. He'll just end up buying 100, and this will be looking crisp for him. Woo-wee! Look at this. On his way to Castle Age, making fires already. Meanwhile, we had Panic Mill for Kingston. And now he's building the market with more villagers than he would have originally. Did go up to 12 fishing ships. Isn't making Navy yet. It's going to need the blacksmith too. And yet, his timings are just off here. It's not quite as crisp. And his fishing ships are way more vulnerable than Japanese fishing ships. And we know there's some Navy on the way for Overtaken already. Now, this would also be around the time where you would see the transport. And then most players are sending 2 villagers with their scout to the mainland. By the way, there's no wolves on migration anymore. I realized in week 2 or week 3 in one of the sets there were wolves. And we've since removed them. If you watched my cast, I said that I don't think that water map should have wolves. Because it is really unfortunate for players to run into wolves when they're sending 1 villager to go dock. So, yeah, we immediately made that change. This is as meta and as crisp and as clean as it gets right now for Overtaken. I love this. He probably should consider queuing Loom. But then again, it's like, what does your opponent really have to kill you here, right? There's no wolves anymore, right? So it would just be the scout. And I guess you're going to have your own scout. So I guess Loom isn't even needed. Yeah, Overtaken, he's going to run into some fires here from Kingston, and I think he thinks better of it and just backs away. He'll have his upgrades in faster, so just wait till your upgrades come in. It is 4 docks, though, for Kingston, and you do have the home field advantage. You're right next to where the fight's going to be happening. So I think that much will put Kingston in a decent enough position to defend here. As you can see, he could just repair his ships. He's got lots of production. And while the initial timings might not have been quite as crisp for Kingston as it could have been, he's still in more than good enough of a position to defend this. Cheaper for him to get his upgrades. Now he's coming forward with villagers. And we haven't seen any fishing ships go down for either player yet. It's just been 1 kill for Kingston on one of the ships that went forward from Overtaken. This is an amazing migration game thus far. Like, in terms of the skill, it is super clean. I love it. Wow, interesting that we see Sanctity almost immediately for this monk. And we see Monastery and we see Siege Workshop for Kingston, who's pretty much in the dark. He doesn't know there's anything there, but I'm sure he's expecting it. 2 fires coming this way to make it 2.2 fires versus 1.7. I don't know, math is hard, but you guys get what I'm saying. And both players finding it difficult to break the other when attempting to kill their fish right now. And Overtaken getting a little bit too ambitious possibly, but I think he's simply just looking at this right now. He started to convert that scout from Kingston, and Kingston's scout received the first hit from Overtaken too. So this should be a win for Overtaken. And, oh, that's a big thing, because this scout can get healed up, and we're going to have even more monks for Overtaken. But, guys, Overtaken lost quite a bit of navy there, too. Lost a lot of ships. He's selling some food right now for more gold. Does he have vision on this? He has vision on the fact there's going to be siege. He's selling even more food, and that is so he can go for redemption. He wants to go redemption to convert any siege that might come out from Kingston. Kingston's kind of chilling right now in terms of land. He's not actually making any siege. He's just going to collect that relic. And he seems to be focusing a lot more on water, and that could absolutely pay off. This is what's so fun about this map, is the pros and cons, right? Overtaken has decided to prioritize land now, but he could lose water. But Kingston could lose land. I think that the balance right now for Kingston's actually superior if he can get a TC down somewhere safe. Losing this will hurt. If he's got a TC on the left or the right, it could be okay. Overtaken's kind of freaking out now, I'm sure, because he sees all the Navy coming in. And then he's going to see the Navy over here, too. Really don't want to be losing fishing ships. And the sides is actually where you have a lot of your fish right now, as the transport ship picked up the monk. Smart from Kingston to delete his buildings there. You can't convert monasteries if you're a monk. So that won't be converted, but it would be really funny if Overtaken converts this transport ship. Demos need to land for Overtaken. That's something you rely on if you're behind in numbers. And the conversion! It's gonna happen! Hey, there's a red monk in there. Don't kill it. That's your friend. No, that's your friend. I guess if you're Overtaken, you don't really need the transport ship. It's fine for you to just let that transport ship go down. But the monk doesn't change sides here, guys. That is still a red monk in there. So Kingston is essentially killing his own monk. I don't know where Overtaken's going. He has moved it. Hopefully he realizes he's got an enemy unit in there. And a nice demo there from Kingston. Look at the amount of monk coverage Overtaken has now. He's looking everywhere, and he will notice there's no town centers up for Kingston yet. Did the transport go down? It did. Okay, sorry for looking away from that. There's a lot of different things to look at. This dock is huge for Overtaken, though. He's basically moved all of his fishing ships over here. And he's defended on this left side. I wonder which position is superior here right now. It has to be Overtaken, right? As he's going to build a TC. It has to be. He just needs to be careful he doesn't send too much Navy to defend a side where he doesn't have fish anymore. But obviously, he's hoping to disrupt the opponent's fishing economy. If he were to pull monks over here, he could actually convert the docks, and he could convert ships from the shoreline. And again, great defense from him on this side. Though the demo, oh, that demo hurts. He's going to still need to pay close attention to that. Yeah, okay, so yeah, now from the shoreline, you can convert ships. And it's going to become more and more awkward for Kingston to know what to do now with his ships. Because you have to defend your navy, you have to defend the water, but if you do that, you're simply just going to lose ships time and time again here, and it's going to get messy. Fishing economy doesn't look very efficient right now for Kingston, who he's not migrated near as well as his opponent has. Which is kind of the point of the map. The monk play from Overtaken was amazing. That said, fishing ships had to relocate again for Overtaken. Great job from him to do that, though. And he's actually going to bring a monk over here. He spotted this stable, and he wants to try and convert that. But 2 TCs now for Overtaken, so he is able to build up more and more economy on land. It still has really nice vision here. And that scout's going to pop out here and probably try and kill the monk. You have to, if you're Kingston, right? You have to. He does, but the conversion was charged. That was so epic. Overtaken knew when he saw that flag, he knew that the scout was going to pop out eventually. So he just waited. He didn't look anywhere else. And you can essentially charge up the conversion. A lot of people don't like this aspect of monks, but the conversion process was started, and then if you switch it to a unit, you can get a really fast conversion that way. So that is not uncommon for monks. That is normal. Kingston maybe feels like his only way back now, because this stable will be converted, there's not going to be a new scout, is going imp. And guys, he still has resources to work with on his island. He still has a massive navy. The faster Imperial Age could absolutely change this game. Now, he's going to be behind in economy. He's going to be behind in relics, all that stuff. That's not going to be fun. But if he can get fast fire ship, he will dominate the seas still. And Overtaken, if he doesn't spot a castle that Kingston may go for, and I could see Kingston maybe transporting and trying to drop a castle here, because at least here he has vision. A castle could then make trebs and start to treb down all the buildings. This is the final win condition for Kingston. This is his final way to try and bring this back. Overtaken has to just balance his economy and think about Imp himself. I only saw Lowy the Legends and not TTL. Tune in and see Kingston. I thought you were trolling, T90. Now, we'll do Lowy the Legends after this series. I'm not calling Kingston a Lowy the Legend. This has been far from Lowy Low. I wonder if it's worth it to buy food here to go Imp. I mean, timings are important, so I think that it is worth it. But also, as we see great vision from Overtaken, look at the amount of vision he has with the monks and now outposts on this side. As he's going to convert this dock and then deny this dock, maybe. And then also convert the ship. Overtaken playing like a god right now. But yeah, on one hand, buying food for Imp would be great. On the other hand, pretty soon, Kingston's going to run out of gold. And then the only way he can get gold is by selling food. And if you buy food, it gives more gold to your opponent in the long run. Houses on the shoreline with Italian architecture being converted. Docks have been converted. Docks have been denied. The Kingston's now getting fast fire, though. So I think you need a bunch of demos just waiting in the choke points if you're Overtaken to stop those fires in some way. And, oh, an important moment in this game. Here comes 10 villagers. Well, they were in the transport. They've since gotten out. But they want to drop a castle. Remember, Kingston's an Imp. So he can make trebs. God, these monks have gotten so much value here. Such a great job from Overtaken to use the monks against the ships. Still no Imp for him. But he is soon double the eco. Oh, man, that castle's so crazy. This castle's so crazy. The comeback is definitely doable. It's definitely doable if this castle goes up, because this castle will be trebbed down, right? How are you supposed to stop trebuchets if you're in Castle Age? Oh, boy. Okay, he now knows to click up. So, I think Overtaken's next thought should be, can I make army that can kill the trebs underneath the castle fire? I know based on the stats in this game that it really feels like Kingston has no chance, guys. But it's military and map control that matters. And like this castle's going to go down. There's still monks everywhere. The monks have been the MVP play for Overtaken. Because, sure, he can't make fast fire, but he can just convert fast fires. I think if he was a civilization that could get the final armor on his cav, Overtaken would be dropping stables. Even against the Italians, even though the Italians can make Genoese crossbow, because there's just not a lot of castles for Kingston. He's just probably going to have one, and we know he's going to make trebs out of it. But he's going to go ranges here. Maybe thinking about skirms and archers. The fishing economy doesn't matter near as much now because you've expanded into plenty of farms. So losing your fish doesn't matter all that much, and maybe we just see Overtaken forget about making navy in general. Whereas Kingston is still thinking, I have to use my water advantages. And he's continuing to produce navy. Samurai have low pierce armor. Yeah, for whatever reason, Samurai have only 5 pierce armor when they're elite with full upgrades. Whereas, like, Champion has 6 now. That is something the devs need to change if they want Samurai to be worth it. Because with supplies being in, and with Champion being, like, with supplies being accessible to Japanese, and also Gambesons now, And because the infantry attacks faster for Japanese anyways, I feel like if you're going to go infantry with Japanese, you should just always be going champion. It's the safer play. It's still really, really strong. And it's unfortunate. But I think if they were to give +1 Pierce Armor to the Samurai, Samurai would be more worth it. Not a good situation to want to go for your unique unit right now, though, because you know you're going to lose your castle. So it's going to be Archer play. And we see Monk upgrades coming in for Overtaken. Getting 12 range on his monks would be very helpful. And look at this. We've got like a tower now on this area trying to deny the golds. He's got full vision of the mainland. Is sort of taking some losses on water, but again, he's got so many villagers to work with. Japanese don't get bombard cannon. So if you can't make trebs, how are you really expecting to take out this castle? He's sinking a lot of stone into repairing this castle, but he does have a new one to make trebuchets out of. I think if you lose this castle and Kingston has more trebs than you and starts to treb down your trebs, I honestly think you back away for a moment and just, gather yourself. Because Kingston is pretty much everywhere on water, but he's got nothing on land. And he's just going to run out of res. Like, this tower's done enough for now. I guess that'll be trebbed down next. The worrying thing would be is if you still try and commit to taking out this castle, and then you lose all your trebs, and then your army can't help because of the castle fire from the opponent. But it seems like Overtaken's just... he's all right to just repair his trebs. It's risky. He's doing it. This is why I said with this lead, why if he had better cav, he might have just considered going for cav, because you just snipe the trebs. I think he needs to back up. I think he could lose this game. And also, the score is a huge psychological factor. So, that him seeing the score getting closer and closer could be really complicated for him. Might even be worth getting Cat to Peruto here. Like, look at the amount of food income for Kingston. It's not good. He's got Navy. He's controlling the shorelines. He's going to place another castle here. But I don't think he can place that castle yet. It has been only trebs for Kingston and Imp on land. And Cataparuta! Let's go! But you only have 3 trebs. With your opponent has 6, you probably still need to match. And Kingston's stuck, though. He can't really decide on where to go with his next castle, and that's going to be his choice. A risky one. He has to be careful here. And yeah, he just deletes it. I think realizing exactly what would happen. Do you feel like Overtaken's worked hard to get up to this point? He played this game near perfect in Castle Age. He just needs to push this, and then this game is over. Did he lose that castle, or did he delete it? No, okay, so he deletes his castle, but unfortunately for Kingston, after deleting it, he only has 649 stone. He needs 1 more stone to be able to place another castle. Brutal. Do you just sacrifice your army underneath the castle at this point? I think you do. Yeah. It's only trebs from your opponent. Whatever. You've got monks behind to heal. And with this, I think Overtaken gets a very important victory. And right now, he only has 2 wins after his first 2 rounds. And odds are he probably needs to win the next one to give himself his best chances at survival, because this group has been extremely competitive here in Titans League. Slam, Sato, Dragonstar, Kingston, Overtaken, and Stark. Big names across our scene. But I think Overtaken's good enough to be in that conversation of big names. He is consistently hanging around this level. And when he was relegated before out of Titans League Gold, it was by 1 win in a group that had like Hart, Sebastian, Sato, and Daniel as 1 through 4, which is insane. Arbalest finally coming in for him. Castle finally going down, though, for Kingston, and the GG is called. I think Overtaken's decision to go for the monks there was pretty massive. It's not uncommon to see 1 monastery, 1 siege workshop, which is what Kingston did, but Overtaken was faster to the land, he was faster to the monk production, and he was really able to utilize the monks against the navy from Kingston. I want to see how many conversions came in this game. It's military, right? 19 conversions, and I would say the majority of them happened against ships. So while he was expanding and controlling the land, he was holding the water for a long enough period of time because of the conversions. That was really good stuff. Collected 15k more resources, collected more wood, more food, more gold, more stone. So after the first game was incredibly close, Overtaken had a lead, and then Kingstone brought it back. Overtaken pretty much dominated Kingstone there in game 2. If we want the closest group and the most competitive situation for the group as we go into the final 2 weeks of this tournament, or this group, we want Overtaken to get the next win. We've got Kingstone on 5 wins right now. We've got Overtaken at 3. If Overtaken wins the next game, from the top down on the groups, we have 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. And then we have poor Stark at 0. But, yeah, well, let's see. Wow, okay, so it's very snowy. I usually have my no snow mod on, but I think people appreciate some variety here. Might be burning some people's eyes right now, and for that, I apologize. But we've got the home map for Kingstone, where he has gone for the Vietnamese. Now, if Kingstone wins this, he then has 6 wins after 3 rounds. And remember that Slam, who's number 1 in the group, is 8 wins after 4 rounds. So it's very easy for Kingstone to be considered one of the favorites to maybe win the group if he wins yet another series 2-1 here. That's what he did in the first round and the second. The rankings right now are a bit skewed in this just simply because Overtaken and Kingstone are behind 2 sets when compared to Slam and Sato. Vietnamese, I think, are the superior archer civ if this goes late. The Rattan archer, the Imperial skirmishers, all those things kind of cancels out the faster firing archers for the Ethiopians. So Overtaken might feel like the longer this game goes, the worse it gets for him. But I guess if it does go late, the Ethiopians have insane siege. So that might be something that Overtaken chooses to look towards. But I think you kind of opt for the extremes on either end of the situation if you're Overtaken. You either are extremely aggressive to try and kill the Vietnamese quickly because you're scared of their late game, or you're extremely greedy and try and survive for a very long time to get to that siege. I do not think being extremely greedy is good for Overtaken style. I also do not think that it's good against the Vietnamese. Vietnamese have cheaper eco upgrades. The Vietnamese research their eco upgrades faster. Like, economically, if this is a boom war, I think the Vietnamese are superior. So I'm expecting some aggression here. And again, another hideout game where someone picks Ethiopians over a lot of other options. We didn't even see Spanish drafted. What do you guys think about that? Sato went Ethiopian archer tower rush against Cumans, which I just felt like was not good at all. It had such a low chance at success the second he started it. But I guess it's against Cumans, and Cumans are just a whole nother animal. I think Overtaken's picked this because he wants to go man-at-arms and 1 range for map control. He's an aggressive player and would prefer that map control, so. Ooh, another reason to maybe go forward. He does have a bit of a lead in the scout war, just 3 HP, but if the scouts would have continued fighting there, Kingstone would have lost his scout. My ex-girlfriend is from a snowy area. Can we delete the snow? No, dude. No. That's a slippery slope, man, with a lot of viewers. He did say he was kidding. It's all good. I'm Spanish myself, so the fact they were not chosen, I'm a bit offended. Not much, though. Well, it's not the first time that players have just opted not to go for Spanish in the draft, and this map has always been a map where players might choose to go into unique units, especially gunpowder unique units. So they pick 5 civs for a play all 3. So there's always 2 civilizations that aren't played. I'm just surprised that Spanish hasn't even been on there as an option. But I'm not surprised to see that both players are adding farms, which tells us right now that this will be Castle Age. Ethiopians can go Castle Age faster because they get plus 100 food and plus 100 gold when they get to the next stage. So you can actually go fast castle without even taking gold. But how does that lend itself towards aggression for Overtaken? If it lends itself towards aggression. We'll see. I once slipped and sprained my ankle because of snow and ice when I was a kid. Can we ban snow, please? Nah, if you like sprained your ankle at 28, I'd feel worse about it. But I feel like you're able to bounce back from that a bit easier because you were a kid. I don't know how bad the sprain was, but for that reason, we will not. Whoa, this uptime. Holy crap. Okay, he's going fast castle off this, guys. I mean, I don't know if it's achievable, but it's too late for a feudal age build. And with any other civ, maybe it's too fast for a fast castle build. This could be pretty quick. And then maybe he goes... I could see him going Pike Siege. He adds a barracks so he can go for 1 or 2 spearmen to protect the vills, and then goes for siege on the front. That's what I'm thinking right now. This would be pretty standard build here for Kingston. If he were to get pushed, though, he's got his gold and his stone on the back, which is really helpful. You don't know when your opponent has walls up where the resources are, and sometimes you're just hoping that the resources are going to be here. If I saw these houses, I would assume the berries were here, because usually players pull the villagers off the berries to build the houses. And it's not too far off, right? But you pretty much know the berries are forward if you see houses like that at this level. See? Same deal. At low elo level, I don't know if that's the case, so don't take that advice, get excited about it, and then be shocked when you're wrong in your games, but it's just a small little thing to think about. Yeah, it seems to me like this is going to be pretty smooth and easy here for Overtaken. But again, I don't know if it's going to be aggression at all. It could easily just be an early second town center. We see a barracks for Kingston. I think Kingston thinks that uptime means military from his opponent. I don't know if this was part of his original plan to add the barracks. His vill count would tell me that it probably was, but I'm not sure. Also, I think he's late on gold. So whatever military building he makes, I think he should go with a market instead of a blacksmith. So like archer range or stable and then market. Because he needs to use the market. He would have recognized this already. So he's going to go market. You don't have to worry about it. Yeah. Market blacksmith. Okay. And deletes the blacksmith, and now goes for a stable. So yeah, he's like, oh crap. I was surprised when I saw the blacksmith, because again, normally you just want to build 2 buildings here. Would an outpost be worth it if you're Kingston? I think scouting this area is worth it. I don't think you need to add the outpost, because you don't want to delay your town centers. I think he'll just scout it. And he'll probably end up adding another scout here, too. So, Kingston building up towards map control. He will quickly find out that Overtaken is not. I imagine because Overtaken doesn't have any gold income right now, he will probably drop a town center on the gold. Yeah, I haven't seen a monastery from him yet. Well, first off, he's not in Castle Age. But I doubt we'll see a monastery because he doesn't have the gold for the monk yet. I think TC here and then TC here makes sense. TC. And TC. He's going to place it there. This is something I saw the other day as well. Okay, interesting. So the original town center, I think it was Nilly who did it. And I actually thought it was really smart because you're worried about getting siege pushed from the outside. And so if you place the TC here, it then can get hit by the siege. So at the time, I kind of understood the reasoning for it. But I guess then again, if you think about it, it's not like these palisade walls are that strong. So even if you place the TC here, your gate goes down, you're going to be in range. This is a better TC to give you protection for the gold. The scouts are out for Kingston. So it is very likely that the scout out there for Overtaken could be sniped. He's going to see this is a new scout because he sees it's high HP. And now he has to try and run home. And this scout's going to block. You ready? Kingstone won't even attack with it, I promise you. He will get in front. He will get in front and block with it. This one's going to do the damage. This one does the blocking. Ready? Oh, yeah. Overtaken saw it. He knew. So Overtaken, he felt like that would be a tricky spot for him to get out of, so he's going to run the other way. Second TC for Kingstone. Again, eco upgrades. You don't spend wood on your eco upgrades, and then also you research them faster now, which is that part's a recent change. And it's just full boom here for Overtaken, who will not go for relic control. Kingstone already has the monastery. He already sees 3 relics, the relics that are going to be the most difficult to get as well. The southernmost relics, probably not going to be something that players focus on. Res collected. It's higher for Kingstone, but he does have fewer vills. So that should even out a little bit. But yeah, personally, I always prefer to have map control. That does not mean it's best. But I love to have the vision with the scouts. I love to have the relics for the late game. Because basically from here, you know you have to brace yourself for that attack, which is going to eventually come through that middle. Whatever push comes in, when it comes in. All right, now if he could get this scout to his TC, he could garrison, but no. Scout goes down. I think we looked at the odds. If Overtaken were to lose 2-1 here, and then 3-0 Stark in one of his final sets, meaning he'd have one more round remaining. And the odds were still like, I think 50% that Overtaken gets relegated. 50 or 60%. It just puts so much pressure. Like, he absolutely, if he loses this, he absolutely has to 3-0 Stark. Which, sure, 3 other players have done that, but that's no guarantee. Stark is still, he got promoted for a reason. Probably he's learned some lessons. Maybe he's more motivated now, or not more motivated, but maybe he's a little bit like angry at himself. Like, come on, I'm better than this. So it might be a better Stark. And then he has to win his final series, which if chat could tell me who that's against, that would be really helpful. I actually forget. I think Overtaken played Slam. He's playing Kingstone now. He hasn't played Stark. I think it might be Overtaken Heart. So yeah, I mean, it's just it's a high pressure stuff, man. But if you win this game, you're 4 wins after 3 rounds. You have Stark, your quote unquote easiest opponent. It becomes a lot more likely that you could maybe surpass somebody in this group. Who are you going to surpass? Dragonstar's been elite. Sito. Slam is at 8 wins. It's a tricky group. I said Heart, by the way. Heart's not in this group. Heart is in another group. Res collected now. It is higher for Overtaken. And 600 more food brought in. And he's definitely thinking about the Imperial Age. And we'll see an archer range for Overtaken, and he's probably like, sure, you've got skirms. That's great, but if I go heavy siege, or I get archers before you get skirms, best of luck to you, my friend. This is going to be a timing attack. It's all built up towards early control and a forward castle. He's on stone for a reason. He does not want this castle to be defensive, in my opinion. I think he wants this castle to be built around here, and that is why what Kingstone is doing right now is so freaking smart, and so many players don't do this. He's going to start stonewalling. Honestly, I think it could be too late. Like, I think that he really needs to have more villagers stonewalling here. It's a little off meta. Not off meta, but it doesn't suit the situation, in my opinion, to even prioritize stonewalling this right now. I know it's like 2 villagers here and 1 villager here. Now he's sending more. But if you need the stone, he's got the stone. But you really got to get these walls down, because the opponent's always going to push the closest way. Anyways, TC's going up here for Overtaken on another gold. He's building up some archers. He actually sees the monk there from his opponent. And yeah, more range is on the way. This is going to be very fast push and early imp. Stone walls are going up, though. You need to make sure you also wall behind the tree, because the tree can be chopped, and then players will build a wall over it and delete it. That's something every high-level player should know. So I'm sure Kingstone's going to do that. Kingstone using the market a little bit. We'll click up to imp. There he goes. So he's behind by a minute to imp. But he's also behind in army numbers. Look at the vision right now for Kingstone. This is funny, man. He sees the ranges. He sees the university. He saw the TC. He's stonewalled here. Actually has so much gold back here to work with. I guess there's also additional golds for Overtaken, though, so it's not like it's imbalanced. And there go the archers, and here come the vills. Dude, Kingstone! My friend, you gotta mill the wall behind that tree. Thank you. And here goes Overtaken. And I think you just have to drop the castle behind the walls now. Like, I don't think you can wait to take the walls down. These walls buy so much time. But honestly, it's not walled yet, which is crazy, but he doesn't know that. Crossbow not going to be converted. And Kingstone, he's under pressure, but he will be happy that this castle is going up here. He also could kill a lot of vills. No loom! No loom! Huh? Oh my god. Huge. Huge, huge, huge pickoffs there. Oh, when he gets more! Dang, that was calculated. And it actually hops out of the walls because he wants more blood. And the crossbowmen aren't upgraded yet. And honestly, the Mangonel has flipped this game on its head. This has bought so much time here for Kingstone. The castle's not up. Bracer's gonna be in a second. But the shots have done more than enough. This is awesome. Just delaying the castle and killing crossbow numbers has done more than enough. He's also re-walled it, lands another shot, and disaster has struck time and time again for Overtaken. This is why I talk about the importance of map control, guys. These surprises that happened here to Overtaken, he could have performed a bit better against it all, right? But it's all because Kingstone had control and vision. The best players are going to use that control and vision to get to the positions they want in games, and that's precisely what happened here. I would still consider this unfortunate for Overtaken, though, because like, the fact that the wall was up at barely the right time, but then also was in a position to allow the Mangonel to hit all those villagers was just amazing. The Siege Workshop wasn't spotted. Like, you never really expect that Mangonel to do that much there. And it slowed down this whole push considerably. And Kingstone getting Imperial Skirm as the very first thing. And this is where I don't know what you do as Ethiopians. You would need lots of bombard cannons. And lots of bombard cannons can change it. And that is what Overtaken's building up towards. So even the faster chemistry ends up being important here, right? All right, crossbowman looking around. Imperial Skirm will shred the crossbowman. Castle will go up. Walls are coming up behind. Kingstone is late with some blacksmith upgrades. That shouldn't be that big a deal, though. He might be in a position where he needs to just outmass the bombard cannons. Like, he needs enough skirms where he could toss them away constantly and still push back the cannons. The key with this type of push, if you're Overtaken, is your next castle goes right where you're going to use your siege. So right here. He's probably bringing the vills now. He's going to bring them now. 3, 2, 1, go. 3, 2, 1, go. Go. I'm trying to look like a genius here. Go. No, okay, he's not going to do it. But it's important because if your opponent's going skirms, you need the castle fire to help out in the fight. Now, maybe he's saving for Torsen engines, too, which is a pretty ridiculous technology which helps the siege. I think that would be worth it. Arguably more worth it than Thumb Ring and Arbalest at this point. He's just going to take out the ranges as he's on his way. You could try and raid this side. You could try and make it messy if you're Kingston, but I don't think he has the mass yet to really feel comfortable doing that while also defending. Because defending is the most important thing. Overtaken, going towards 8 bombard cannons now. Oh my goodness. 8 bombard cannons with Ethiopians, and he will absolutely go for Torsen engines, right? You see what Kingston's trying, though? He's just like, I can run through here because there's no castle fire. And I would just dive bomb. It's skirms. I don't care about skirms that much. I would just kill all the cannons with my skirms. That's the thought process, which is why the castle's so crucial. And so many of the bombard cannons have gone down thus far, leaving these not even arbalest, crossbowmen on their own. Amazing hold from Kingston to get this far, and it just seems as though Overtaken didn't have the castle he needed. A good micro from Kingston, too, we have to say, because he did dodge a lot of the bombard cannon shots. And now here he comes, and he's coming forward with Trebs. Maybe a little early for this, we'll see. But he wants to go for this castle, and he doesn't have to push. He has 4 relics. He has the superior eco. He doesn't really have to push at all here. This is the late game that I felt where I felt the Vietnamese would be superior. And we're seeing it. Siege Engineers in 10 seconds for Overtaken. Maybe, if the AoE gods are going to give him a favor here, maybe then he could somehow range these 2 Trebs that are stacked. The Kingston says, again, I have skirms. I will happily lose these because it's not expensive for me to make more of them. He's got tons on wood and tons on food. And the castle will drop for Overtaken. And Overtaken probably going to drop another game here in a tightly contested series. Which means that he really is going to need to step it up in the final 2 rounds to have a chance at staying alive here in this crazy group. Probably the strongest group so far in Titans League. So that is still to be said. We now have paper money. Lumberjacks for the Vietnamese. We'll bring in some gold. Bit of a trickle. That's great. On top of having those relics. And Kingston just doesn't care. The KD is not pretty, but if you think about the units that have gone down, it's been gold units for Overtaken. And it has just been food and wood units for Kingston. We know what Overtaken was trying here, right? He was hoping to push and kill before it got to this. But when I saw Vietnamese, I just felt like, oh man, what a nice civilization to have. They're also, even if it's not up against another archer civ, they're also just so good at countering many different civilizations. It is the home map for Kingston, so you would have prepped him to be prepared. Or you would have expected him, sorry, to be prepared. And he's still pushing here. I don't think pushing the other side wins you this game now. I think you just have to hope that your cannons can get the value, but I'm sure it's a sinking feeling for Overtaken. I'm sure he knew the second he lost this castle that this was probably over. And you don't even need to make your own cannons, really, if you're Kingston, because you've got skirms, bro. He's got 42 skirms. And he's 30 more of them right now. A great series here from Kingston. Feel really bad for Overtaken. The first game was so close. Overtaken could have taken the first game. And this game, all the unfortunate things that happened with that castle really slowed him down. And he could have maybe had a better chance of winning this one too. But oh my goodness, look at all the economy that's here for Kingston. He's just gonna drop a castle at Overtaken's face. Are you kidding me, bro? Back it up. Chill out a little bit. I don't think you need to build it that aggressively. I guess, honestly, he didn't know that the castle was here for Overtaken, so. I still don't like the Ethiopian choice. I don't think you put yourself in the best chances. I don't think you give yourself the best chances to have success picking Ethiopians on Hideout. I think we've seen it twice on Hideout now, and it's died both times, but I take nothing away from Kingston. The wall was so important. The mangonel was great. And his eco was great. The map control was good. He didn't actually get the 5th relic, so maybe that's a small thing he could have done better, but he's just going to treb this down. Like, Torsen Engines is just now coming in for Overtaken. Probably should have waited. He probably shouldn't have moved out without that. At the very least, I don't think he moved out without dropping the castle. But I think when he saw the skirmishers, when he had crossbows and 8 bomber cannons, he felt like no one in their right minds would engage against me. And Kingstone was in his right mind to engage, and he took an amazing engagement there. Because I didn't see Overtaken have an oh crap moment initially in that fight, whatever time that was. Like, yeah, okay, so let's rewatch this. So I really wanted to see a castle here. And I think if you've got the castle going up, even right now, Kingstone can't move out. A castle here is huge. But okay, he's moving forward. He knows it's Imp Skirm. He's seen Imp Skirm. He's still moving out. And I just want to see, did he have time to get away, maybe? It didn't seem like he really was bothered. Okay, like right there, if you're worried that this is a problem, you back away. He's like, I got this. Or maybe not. No, he's trying to hit as he go. No. Yeah, he is trying to flee. But Imp Skirms just came in from all angles. This was pretty cool to have 10 Imp Skirms just waiting in the north. And yeah, bomber cannons were just far too expensive to lose there. Guys, anytime you're going for that type of push, though, a timing push where you're pushing your opponent back, you need the castle to protect. Especially against skirms or like light cav, knights, anything like that. Just boom. Most of the armies, when you've got the snowball and siege ready, you need the castle next to it. That was what Overtaken was missing. But, I mean, how much did he lose here that hurt him? It's just, he built it too close to the wall. He lost so much time. And it wasn't just the villagers that he lost. He ended up losing crossbowmen after this as well. He's on 16 crossbows when he hits him. He goes down to 13. He goes down to 9. He goes down to 4. And then he loses a little bit more. Like, that whole period was so good for Kingstone and so crucial for him being able to have a little bit more time in defense there. So, well played from Kingstone. We'll have to look to the results now and see what this means for the group. A group where right now it's looking like Overtaken and Stark will get relegated. Kingstone has won every single series he's played 2-1, which is amazing for him. I'll pull up the results now. This should be... Actually, you know what I have to do? I know this looks janky. I don't want to see the update on the Capoch series because we are casting that next. I don't want to spoil myself. I'm going to try, in case I spoil myself, I'm going to try and refresh it. Okay, Liquipedia didn't actually update it, but this doesn't spoil anything, so this is fine. All right, so Kingstone is then 3-0 in sets, but what's really important is wins. So he'll be tied with Dragonstar, 3 rounds played at 6, which bumps Dragonstar down to 4th. It's crazy to me that Dragonstar will be 4th with 6 wins after 3 rounds. Overtaken will be 5th with 3 wins. Which puts him 3 wins off of 4th and 3rd place, which means that he needs the other players to drop games. The positive for Overtaken, though, again, is the matchups. So he will have... This is obviously going to be a really tough series. I think he needs maybe a 3-0 there. 3-0 would be massive, but maybe a 2-1 still doable. I think there's a world where if he wins 2-1 versus Dragonstar, and then he 3-0 Stark, he goes up 5 points, right? So he's at 3 now. That would take him to 8. And yeah, like 8 would probably mean survival is possible. Especially if... Who's Sato's last series? Sato's last series is Kingstone. Yeah, like, I mean, Sato could lose to Kingstone. We don't know if he gets 3-0. I mean, there's just a lot going on there. But yeah, after that result, it does feel like Kingstone, maybe even one of the favorites to get first, guys. Because remember the amount of rounds played. Kingstone's going to be a similar spot as Dragonstar with 6 wins. And he's got 2 rounds to go. Slam and Sato sitting up at 8 and 7. They've already played 4 rounds, so they only have 1 round remaining. The Group C is very competitive, very exciting. And thank you everyone for watching another TTL series. I probably should have just looked at a few more stats here. Kingston with more food and wood. We know what he made with that. Skirmishers. 2K gold brought in from the relics. And he would have dominated this game, obviously, if this continued. So not too much else to look at.